Lex Fridman podcast. Satya Nadella on AI's business revolution. What happens to SaaS, OpenAI, and Microsoft? A fireside chat at Davos moderated by David Sachs with contributions from the audience. Duration: approximately 32 minutes. The CEO of Microsoft lays out his vision for how AI will restructure knowledge work, why models will proliferate like databases, and how the OpenAI relationship fits into Microsoft's grand strategy. Section 1. The Green Card Gamble. The conversation opens with a charming personal story. David Sachs asks Satya to tell the audience about bringing his wife to America. Satya explains that he came from India for grad school, got married, then hit an absurd immigration wall. His wife could not join him because of how the marriage timing interacted with his green card status. His solution was to walk into the American embassy in Delhi and ask where the line was to give up his green card. The embassy staff told him there was no such line because, in the 1990s, voluntarily surrendering a green card was almost unheard of. He gave it up anyway, switched to an H-1B visa so his wife could join, and it all worked out. It is a small moment that reveals the kind of calculated risk-taking that has defined his career. Section 2. The Evolution of AI Form Factors. Sachs frames the current moment perfectly. Elon's XAI is building human emulators that sit in chat rooms and email pretending to be employees. Anthropic's Claude just launched Cowork, which people are losing their minds over. Where does Microsoft fit? Satya's answer is characteristically structured. He uses coding as the best case study for understanding AI form factors because it is the most mature example of knowledge work being transformed. The evolution went next at its suggestions using early codex models, pre-GPT 3.5, then chat interfaces, then actions, and now fully autonomous agents that can run in the foreground, background, in the cloud, or locally. The key insight is that all of these form factors coexist. When Satya himself codes, he uses a foreground agent and a background agent simultaneously, jumping between them and editing in V's code. It is not about one modality winning. They compose together. For knowledge work more broadly, the same trajectory is playing out. Chat with reasoning goes beyond simple request response because you can see chain of thought working. Actions come through computer use and API skills, and then there are agents. Satya borrows a concept from the CEO of Notion, a manager of infinite minds. The operational principle he likes is macro delegate, micro steer. You give the agent a broad task, then provide parallel instructions while it is working. This is already how coding with AI agents works, and it is spreading to all knowledge work. He drops a teaser that within the next week, Microsoft will announce something connecting GitHub Copilot to the broader work environment. The vision is that software developers do not work in isolation. They attend meetings, read specs, and need their repo to be consistent with organizational context. Using MCP servers or skills, Copilot will be able to call into the broader Microsoft work ecosystem and pull in relevant context. Section 3. Digital employees and the identity problem. Sachs pushes on whether Microsoft is building digital employees. Satya confirms they have introduced something called Agent 365, which extends the identity management they already have for humans and their devices to AI agents. There are two modalities. One is giving every knowledge worker their own constellation of AI minds operating under the worker's identity and permissions. The other is creating independent agent identities that are not tethered to any specific human. The critical challenge Satya identifies is provenance. The most important query in any organization is who did what to whom. When a human delegates to agents operating under their identity, the chain of responsibility is clear. When agents operate independently, you need robust tracking of what work was done, by which agent, authorized by whom, and with what decision-making trail. This is not a solved problem, but Microsoft is building the infrastructure for it. Section 4. The Structural Revolution in Knowledge Work. Sachs points out something remarkable. Microsoft has the same headcount it did 4 years ago, but added $90 billion in revenue and doubled its income. Satya calls this probably the biggest change in knowledge work since the PC. He draws a parallel to how multinational forecasting used to work via fax machines and interoffice memos, then was transformed when Excel and email became standard issue. Both the work artifact and the workflow changed. That is what is happening now. At LinkedIn, they have already restructured. Product managers, designers, front-end engineers, and CIS backend engineers have been combined into full-stack builders with increased scope. This is not just consolidation. There is a completely new workflow loop. Evaluation leads to science, which leads to infrastructure, with the full-stack builders doing evals and product management in a new form, while systems engineers handle the backend that supports the AI science. Satya acknowledges Microsoft has to live in both worlds simultaneously, doing excellent traditional engineering like Windows hot patching, while building the eval infrastructure that improves Copilot quality. Section 5. Models are the new databases. This is the most provocative section. Sachs asks whether Satya is bullish on open-source models and thinks LLMs will be commoditized. Satya's answer is the database analogy. He worked on SQL Server in the 1990s when everything was just a SQL database. Then came document databases, NoSQL graph databases, an explosion of specialization nobody predicted. And open source reshaped the entire market. Postgres, once unthinkable as a serious competitor, now underpins enormous businesses. Models, Satya argues, will follow the same trajectory. There will be closed-source frontier models and open-source frontier-class models. But the really interesting prediction is this. In the coming year, the big discussion will be about the future of the firm in relation to AI. Every company should be able to take its tacit knowledge and embed it in model weights that it controls. When someone asks Satya how many models there should be, his answer is as many models as firms in the world. That is how the knowledge economy becomes an AI economy. Apple apparently agrees with this view, and Microsoft is positioning Azure as both a token factory, building heterogeneous infrastructure at scale, and an app server through their Foundry platform where companies orchestrate multiple models for any given task. Satya references a healthcare product called the Decision Orchestrator that proves assigning different roles to different models, such as investigator, data analyst, and domain expert. Then orchestrating them produces better results than any single frontier model alone. Section 6. The OpenAI question and local AI. Sachs asks directly whether Microsoft created its own biggest competitor through the OpenAI deal. Satya's answer is strategic. When people ask where Microsoft's foundation model is, they have the IP. But the real play is infrastructure. Azure's TAM is expanding dramatically, and building token factories with a heterogeneous fleet of hardware is where the money is. Then there is the app server layer, and then the multi-model orchestration layer. On local AI, Satya is genuinely excited. Microsoft has a 5-parameter silica model running entirely on NPUs and GPUs locally. He notes that the workstation is back as a form factor, with high-power desktop machines becoming relevant again. He started his career on a command line and jokes he may end it on a command line. When Sachs asks about advocating for $10,000 to $20,000 desktop machines with embedded LLMs, Satya says they are one architecture breakthrough away from distributed model architectures that could transform what hybrid AI looks like. Microsoft is committed to making the PC a great platform for local models that handle prompt processing locally and call into the cloud when needed. Section 7. Diffusion and global impact. The conversation shifts to geopolitics. Satya introduces the concept of technology diffusion as the key metric for success. He cites economist Diego Caman's work on the Industrial Revolution, showing that countries got ahead not by inventing everything themselves, but by adopting the latest technology and building value-added work on top of it. The same principle applies to AI. Sachs frames competition in terms of market share. If in 5 years American companies have 80% global market share in AI, the US won. If Chinese chips and models dominate, the US lost. Satya agrees but adds nuance. It is not just market share but ecosystem effects. Microsoft has always tracked how many jobs, ISVs, and channel partners were created in each country. The US tech stack, including in China historically, succeeded because others built around it. Bill Gates said you are not a platform until the revenue built on top of you exceeds your own revenue by multiples. SharePoint's ecosystem generated 7 times Microsoft's own software revenue. For the Global South, Satya sees huge opportunity. If 40 to 50% of GDP in developing nations comes from the public sector, AI making government services more efficient could add a couple of points of GDP growth. He is optimistic about broad deployment of American AI technology worldwide, not as American dominance, but as platform creation that generates economic opportunity everywhere. Key takeaways. AI form factors are composing, not competing. Chat, actions, autonomous agents, local and cloud models all coexist and work together. Microsoft is positioning itself as the infrastructure and orchestration layer rather than betting on a single model. The database analogy is powerful. Just as the database market exploded from SQL into dozens of specialized forms, the model market will proliferate until every firm has its own models embedding its own tacit knowledge. The OpenAI investment gives Microsoft IP access, while the real business is in Azure infrastructure and multi-model orchestration. Local AI on powerful PCs is coming back, and knowledge work is being restructured from the ground up, with Microsoft itself combining 4 traditional roles into full-stack builders. Technology diffusion, not invention, is what creates economic impact.